What's the stupidest thing you've done at a family gathering? Tell my sister-in-law that her kids, my nephews, are why I don't want kids. RIP. Good on ya though. My nieces, why I don't want kids. My cousins are why I don't want biological children. My aunt is so tired all the time. She has 3 kids, 2 whom I count as little. Got drunk in front of my great-grandmother and started to shit-talk my entire family in a baby voice to my baby niece. While the entire family thought I was out of line, my great-grandmother thought it was hilarious and that I had valid points. Not me but my dad, as a kid, took a shit in the fireplace and went around bragging about it. My grandma still brings it up to this day. Hey, the fire is dying. Can you put a log in your /unbuckles belt? Got drunk and told one of my grandmas she was my favorite, in front of my other grandma. Youch. It was Thanksgiving last year. I was playing Quiplash with my family. I entered my name and the next thing was my aunt asking who is rock hard, apostrophe. In my defense, I have epilepsy and was having a partial, or a mini, seizure which caused this. I go into the kitchen and a few cousins are standing there with my aunt. I say sandwich, I think, but my brain was literally just reset about 20 seconds ago, and I'm operating at an ultra dumb level. I remember this, primarily because there was aftermath to recollect. I took mayo out of the fridge and just throw a spoonful, I think, at the fridge. I then take out cheese and throw it on the mayo, followed by turkey at the ground and bread somewhere. I look at it and just walked away. My family did not know I had epilepsy at that point in time. That was the icebreaker. I wanted to throw an empty bottle of water at my cousin, and I hid my sister instead. It was a wedding. My sister was the bride. Water she do. Edit, she must have just bottled it up inside. She yelled, "Water me, bitch," apostrophe. I inadvertently went to a strip club with my parents when I was 22 years old. My mom had been ordering pizza from the new bar down the street and was raving about it one night. So we decided to go check out the new restaurant and try their pizza, just me and my parents, instead of having it delivered. As soon as we pulled into the parking lot, my spidey senses went off, as I knew this place was known for having some seedy people hanging around, and it's always been some sort of strip club. But I thought, no way, my dad would know if it was a strip club. Has gotten pizza from here several times now. I couldn't have been more wrong. That voice in my head was telling me to turn around and run as soon as we parked, and 2 men were standing at the door sharing a pretty raunchy story with all sorts of lovely details as we walked up. We walked in the door, and as soon my family entered, it went silent. Every waitress and bartender stopped and looked at us. The strippers even stopped and stared at us. I turned to my dad, and before I could say anything, my mom says it's a strip club? ? My dad, being the stubborn man he is, says I don't care. I want pizza. Never in my life have I heard of a strip club even selling pizza, let alone offering delivery. We sit down. I strategically placed myself so my back is to the strippers, and we place our order. 45 long, painful minutes waiting for our pizza and having small talk while 2 very overweight, out of shape homely girls take off their tops. Thankfully that's all they took off. Danced a few feet behind us. My mom finally asks where our pizza is, and the waitress comes back and tells us she forgot to put in the order. That was the last straw for my mom, who quickly paid the tab and we left, hungry and scarred for the rest of our lives. We still laugh about the day we went to a strip club together for pizza. They shut down a few weeks later, so I never did get to try the amazing pizza my parents raved about. I don't care. I want pizza, apostrophe. Your dad is my hero. He knew. According to them, not being married for the 29th consecutive year, at that point did not marry out of spite. I asked my brother-in-law how his dad was doing. Had significant health problems, forgetting that he had died 6 or 8 months prior. Still dead. And yours? Still not back from going to the shop for milk. Not me but my oldest cousin on my dad's side said this at my great grandma's funeral. Imagine if she moved. TBF. When I was a teen at my godfather's funerals, I had to refrain a crazy laughing bit imagining just that. While my parents were crying their eyes out in the middle of church, my godfather used to be a huge prankster and I suddenly imagined him just sitting up saying, "Ha, gotcha all, you losers." He wasn't religious at all, was young and I had seen him a few weeks prior. So the whole thing, along with a very religious ceremony, seemed very unreal to me. My parents still talk about that to this day, saying I got my sense of humor from him, meaning I laughed too much for my own good, haha. My brother had been overserved and was passed out on the floor in the middle of the group. He was only wearing gym shorts. Suddenly he woke for one brief second and pulled his shorts off. Was not wearing underwear. He had no idea where he was. He was just laying there nude in front of maybe 20 people. It all went completely quiet until my uncle spoke up and said that son of a bitch is hung. Funniest thing I have ever seen. Well, if he's gonna make an ass out of yourself and pass out, at least he got complimented while doing so. I was with a friend, Dennis, at his family reunion. He sees his cousin arrive with a friend in tow. My friend greets his cousin he hadn't seen in years with, "Hey Joe, you crazy cocksucker." His guest gets in Dennis's face very hostile about his phrasing. Dennis pretty much greeted everyone as a cocksucker, but the other guy insisted there were better ways of saying it. Nobody knew the cousin was gay before that, and in a small town it was a hell of a way to come out. I guess I'm going to have to change my greeting to "been a long time, you beautiful Methodika, apostrophe. I haven't had a family gathering since 2014. Once I walked into a baby shower for my cousin's wife and sat down in the biggest chair of honor, right in front of everyone, including the pregnant woman. My mom looked like she wanted to die. On my husband's side, all the women are house elves during family gatherings, and for years I figured showing up with food and booze was enough of a contribution. It wasn't. House elves like the slave ones in Harry Potter, waiting on the men hand and foot. I'd guess yes. It wasn't terribly uncommon, but I think it's slowly coming around. At 4 years old, I sat on my grandpa's birthday cake. They'd put it in the seatless back of the station wagon, where I had to sit, but neglected to tell me it was there and didn't have a cover over it. I was probably distracted plotting my next mischief and didn't notice I'd plopped my crazy little but down on it. My little tights and dress were covered with frosting and the cake was shot. Seriously, though, they shouldn't have been surprised. I never sat still. So many poor choices, and not a single one of them was made by the 4-year-old. LMAO. I once had a middle-aged college professor who said he was back east for a family reunion and mentioned he had a hot tub. Later, he overheard two of his aunts around the corner, "Do you know he lives in California and has a hot tub? Apostrophe. Oh. He seemed like such a good boy growing up. Pretty sure people talked about me like this when I moved to California from Georgia. The southern perception of California is hilarious. If they only knew the debauchery going down in the Midwest." At my grandpa's funeral I went around saying good luck. I was about 7 and I wanted to play in the graveyard while the others were standing around his grave. I hit on my cousin not knowing she was a cousin. I'm part of a really big family. I went to a quinceanera for one of my cousins met this beautiful girl. Her and I were flirting pretty hard back and forth when my mom walks up. "Oh good, you met Anna, she is your second cousin from your cousin Rita's marriage." I know some might say second cousins are different, but not in my family. Luckily my mom noticed and warned us as things were getting hot and heavy. A few knowing uncles and cousins were nudging each other. We were both pretty embarrassed and unsuccessfully played it off that we were just joking around. We did become really good friends still after that. No weirdness and its definition of funny joke between us now. Made out with a cousin I had never met before. Username shockingly fits. At my brother's confirmation, the whole family, almost 60 peoples, were sitting outside in the sun drinking coffee. I had a big idea as a 12-year-old to show them all how badass I was at doing saltus on the trampoline. Guess what? I was a little too fast when going around. So I took the salto and my belly slammed down hard enough to beat the sickest fart out of me. I was just as surprised as the rest. knowing my uncles. They would laughed out loud and would tormented me with this story forever. Got wasted. I'd just lost about 70 pounds and my alcohol tolerance had gone with it, though I hadn't really tested it recently, and my husband's, then boyfriend's, family really likes wine, and I just kept topping off my wine without really paying attention to how much I was drinking. I became an uncoordinated mess and almost broke several gifts by accident. And I was still not the worst drunk at the party. 2 other people also got wasted and had a screaming match in which I was blessedly not involved. When the guy that almost breaks the gifts is only 3rd for worst drunks there. That sounds like a drinking problem. At a pool party when I was 11, I yelled out to everyone to watch me swim the entire length of the pool underwater, dove in and almost swam right out of the bikini I was wearing. Made an abrupt dive to the bottom to adjust myself. Resurfaced to laughter and mockery. Not a family event. But the same thing happened to me at the public pool when I was like 13. Down with suits that tie. One Christmas, my family gathered at Graham's for dinner. One of my cousins brought a karaoke machine. This turned into everyone participating. But not just participating. Being made to pick a song and sing and dance in front of the rest of the family. Horrifying. So many terrible vocalists attempting to win a Grammy. So impaired with my cousin, brother, and uncle, we decide to pick something easy. I don't recall what, but it was an upbeat does not require vocal talent type of song. As we sing, we're kinda throwing up hand signs as we're going. Well, my hands don't exactly cooperate, and I end up throwing 2 giant middle fingers up. I died a bit inside when I look over and see an aunt is recording my awkward childhood. Immortalized forever. Instrumental introduction. Main theme. Trumpet stops momentarily. Tequila. Middle fingers rise up for all to see. Captured in video for future generations. My cousin. How stupid is your cousin? Well, I mean, they did agree to sex with a family member. At least I hope it was consensual and not a vegetable in a wheelchair cousin. Brought up my uncle's boyfriend. He's married to a girl. I have a cinema room in my house fully kitted out. I use it as a room for growing tomatoes though. Decided one Christmas to host at my place and invited the whole family over. I had only been living there for a few years and growing tomatoes in the cinema room was normal to me and I didn't really think about it. Nephew found tomato room and I paid him $100 to keep his mouth shut. Stuck to his word. Surprising for a 12-year-old. Okay, so tomatoes weren't really tomatoes, right? Otherwise, I'm confused. If you want to find the right nutrients for your weed plants, you can use tomato nutrients. The 2 plants have pretty much the same needs. I have an uncle who has been married multiple times. This uncle did not come to my wedding for God knows what reason. I asked why he couldn't come to my wedding, but I had been to 4 of his. I guess you won't be invited to his next one. Cards Against Humanity caused us to have to explain to grandma what buttcake is and why as kids were laughing so hard about it. I was in my young 20s. Had only just started drinking beer and didn't know it can freeze. I put a few in the freezer to chill them faster during a holiday gathering. Later I went to grab one and it seemed fine, but I didn't know it had already started to freeze. I was talking to my sister's boyfriend in the middle of the kitchen while holding a beer I just opened. Somehow it exploded and I didn't notice, and it shot like this beer slush up onto the ceiling above me. I took a step forward while not paying attention and the slush came back down all over my head with the entire family watching the whole thing happen. At a family reunion I brought up how my cousin was on Girls Gone Wild. That didn't go over well with my aunt. I haven't seen her video. Can I get the link for a search? Not take my own car. Classic rookie mistake. I feel some gas in me, so I try so slowly let it out. Ends up somehow falling down my pants onto the floor. Never trust a fart, especially at a family gathering. You know they talk about it. Hey, remember that time /you/Autonova compunk shat on the floor? Apostrophe. Good times. Family member. Good times. Told my very religious great aunt that the only god I believed in was Thor. This was right after seeing the first Avengers movie, and I was still pumped a bit. Walked around chugging wine out of the bottle that I was also serving to people at a family reunion, and then drinking Jack, and ending up passed out in the bathroom before dinner. When I was around 12 I stole my mother's dentures as a dare and put them out in the windowsill. I forgot about them and it snowed. Time to eat TG dinner and mom had frozen teeth and could only gum her food. Trusted a fart. We've all gambled with a fart and lost. Rolled the dice. Crapped out. Stayed when things got toxic. Wasn't me. However, I watched my drunk sister use the N-word with my 12-year-old nephew. The look of horror on everyone's face made it worth going to Christmas that year. My gay brother tried to start a fight with our pastor uncle about gay marriage at our father's funeral. He kept asking, "I bet you'd never marry, officiate, one of my kind." He tried more than once after the uncle refused to engage and walked away. It was incredibly awful, and I'm still pissed about it almost 10 years later. When I was a kid, my parents brought my sister and I to a family wedding. There was this videographer that kept coming by and asking us to smile, wave, and say something. Well, for some reason my sister and I were annoyed by this, and my sister dared me to give him the middle finger next time. I don't think either one of us knew what it meant, because we were so young, but we knew it was bad. Well, sure enough, he came by again and asked us all to wave. Everyone waved and I gave the middle finger. No one seemed to notice, and I shudder thinking of the poor bride and groom watching their wedding tape and seeing 5-year-old me flipping off the camera. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.